Marvel Rivals just saved Overwatch is a statement I've been seeing a lot recently. Marvel Rivals, if you don't know, is a team-based hero shooter much like Overwatch, but with Marvel characters instead. It also has a larger focus on the arcade aspect of the hero shooter genre. At first, a lot of people were saying that Marvel Rivals was going to kill Overwatch because of the similarities that both games shared. And while it looked bad at one point, and I mean really bad, I never thought that Overwatch was in danger of dying, and I still don't believe so. The games are different enough to where they can coexist, like Battlefield and Call of Duty did a long time ago back when those franchises were good. I do think that Marvel Rivals releasing and seeing a lot of success could ultimately be a good thing for Overwatch players. Competition is a good thing, especially in gaming. It forces, or at least incentivizes, communication and engagement with your community. Because players are still in the honeymoon phase of Marvel Rivals, the Overwatch team is heavily incentivized to make changes and adjustments that the community wants, or at the very least, they're heavily incentivized to pretend to do so. So, the Overwatch team put out a patch on February 18th, making very significant gameplay changes, and finally making the 2 in the title make more sense. Also, loot boxes are back for some reason. Because of the success of Marvel Rivals, people have claimed that this patch was only released out of fear of Marvel Rivals. Some people said this as a joke, while others wholeheartedly believed this. Now, of course, I don't know what the devs had planned or what their internal reaction to Marvel Rivals was, but in my opinion, it seems like they may have believed that Marvel Rivals would start to cool off after a couple of weeks or a month. But when this didn't happen, they decided to step on the gas a little bit. A very similar thing happened with Dead by Daylight. In the midst of one of the worst times in Dead by Daylight history, a game called VHS, Video Horror Society, was announced, and it was just another asymmetric multiplayer horror game. On the weekends that VHS had playtests, Dead by Daylight had Blood Hunts, an event where blood points are multiplied, essentially double or triple XP. VHS would soon shut down after launch, but Dead by Daylight still had an immediate and visceral reaction to VHS because it was perceived as a threat from the start. When Escape from Tarkov released the Unheard Edition, there was widespread community outrage. Arena Breakout Infinite and Grey Zone Warfare attempted to take advantage of this outrage. The developers of Escape from Tarkov, Battlestate Games, made changes in their approach to communication and even laid out their plans for the next couple of months. Again, we saw a change in communication based on a perceived threat of another game that either recently released or had recent updates. Also, on a side note, Escape from Tarkov players claimed that the Unheard Edition was something they would never really support, and they even shamed people who bought it initially. But now, I mostly see Unheard Edition players when I kill players or when I die to them. Interesting how that works. I'm not saying anything, I'm just making an observation. When we look at Overwatch's response, we see a large difference. There was not an immediate reaction. I think that the Overwatch dev team believed that the hype for Marvel Rivals would taper off eventually. Or at least that's what I would think if I was an Overwatch developer. Spoiler alert, the hype didn't die and doesn't seem to be dying anytime soon. Screenshots of player counts on Steam and viewers on Twitch started to be circulated, along with dozens of Overwatch's Dead videos, and I think that worried the Overwatch developers. Videos and screenshots like that, even while they might not be true, can create the situation that they are claiming is true. Like how Chernobyl and Fukushima created the idea that nuclear energy was very dangerous. And it is, but not because of meltdowns. Well, meltdowns are dangerous, obviously, but there's more. It doesn't matter. When people hear that the game is dead or a show is bad, it hurts that game or show to a certain extent. It stops new players or new viewers from interacting with that media, and even if that media is good, it risks not receiving a second season or further updates, much like how Star Wars Andor almost got canceled because its initial reception was negative, despite the fact that the show was good from the start, and is easily the best Star Wars media we have received in a very long time. So I've done a lot of yapping, and I bet you're still wondering how Marvel Rivals saved Overwatch. It's simple, really. Long-lasting competition, something that Overwatch has never really had. There have been similar games, Battleborn and Paladins, and you can't even play Battleborn anymore because these servers are offline, and Paladins was never really true competition. It was never large enough to pose an actual threat to Overwatch, especially during its peak. Some people have pointed out that the Overwatch team seems a bit desperate, and I can't disagree, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. If they're comfortable, they get complacent and we get the same Overwatch we've had for the last year and some change. Long story short, true competition is good for Overwatch, obviously. I think that we'll see the best Overwatch we've seen in its entire existence, to include Overwatch 1, solely because of the success of Marvel Rivals. That's not to say Marvel Rivals is perfect. I think it's far from it, actually, and there are some major issues I have with that game, but those issues do not take away from its success. I might make a video about my issues with Marvel Rivals once I get my thoughts in order about it. I miss Battleborn.